Ukraine says it has recaptured ground in Bakhmut after months of the fiercest fighting for the city. The country's deputy defence minister said they'd advanced 2 kilometres in a week, while Moscow state military bloggers have reported the Ukrainian advances as well. We've also heard from the head of the Russian Wagner military group. He's accused regular Russian troops of abandoning their positions in Bakhmut. The Kremlin, it's denied any reports of Ukrainian gains. Well, we've managed to speak to the Ukrainian Army Command on the latest developments. Here's what they told us just before we went on air.
Over the past day, Ukrainian forces have managed to push the enemy back on the northern and southern flanks of the Bakhmut front line, gaining from 250 meters to 1.5 kilometers. Those were our attacks within the defense operation. This is not the big counteroffensive. They have huge losses every day. There have been 199 occupiers killed over the past day, 244 injured and 15 taken into captivity.
So let's take you live now to Ukraine. Our correspondent there is Hugo Bishega. He's in the capital, Kyiv. And Hugo, claim and counterclaim. This is normal, of course, in the way these things play out. But what do we know about what's happening on the ground, particularly in Bakhmut, because that's the area that has been subject to so much fighting?
Yeah, Ben, it's difficult to get a clear picture of what's happening, especially in the east of the country. So now we have the authorities here in Kyiv saying that Ukrainian forces have managed to make some gains around the city of Bakhmut, which has been the key target for Russian forces in the east of the country. Now, the Russians have denied that the Ukrainians have made a major breakthrough in that part of the country. Earlier today, we spoke with the commander in Bakhmut. He said the fighting in the city continues, but that Ukrainian forces have managed to make some gains around the city of Bakhmut. Now, what is interesting is that earlier today there was a statement from the Russian authorities, and they said that Ukrainian forces had carried out an offensive operation in a town near Bakhmut, the town of Soledar, which was captured by Russian forces back in January. Now, the Russians are saying that this offensive by the Ukrainian forces involved 1,000 troops and up to 40 tanks, and they said this operation was unsuccessful. We haven't had any reaction here from the Ukrainian authorities, but I think what is interesting is that this statement from the Russian authorities suggested that Russian troops had fallen back in one area near Bakhmut. So very difficult to get a clear picture of what's happening in that part of the country. Claims and counterclaims from both Russia and Ukraine. And obviously, Kyiv is preparing a major counteroffensive to try to take back territory that's now under occupation. Now, earlier this week, President Zelensky told me that the country still needed more time before it could launch this counteroffensive. The Ukrainian military was still waiting for some military equipment to arrive. So we're seeing these claims. It's difficult to say whether these Ukrainian attacks are part of a larger campaign, but I think it's fair to say that we'll only know that this counteroffensive has started when it's fully underway.
Yes, and of course we should probably expect that both sides here are very keen to downplay expectations, but the truth is the time is running out for Ukraine to launch that counteroffensive.
Yeah, I think there has been a major effort by the Ukrainian authorities to manage expectations ahead of this counteroffensive. I've been here for a few weeks, and I can tell you that almost every single conversation I've had has touched on the issue of this counteroffensive. Now, the Ukrainians know that there's a lot of pressure because they've received weapons and equipment from Western countries, and perhaps they know that it's not only about what happens on the battlefield. They know that any kind of result that is seen as disappointing by Western countries could change the level of support they've been receiving from Western countries. So I think that's why there's a lot of expectation and anxiety ahead of this counteroffensive.
Hugo, as always, good to talk to you. Thanks so much, Hugo Bishega there, our correspondent live in Kyiv.